On behalf of the network of Assistive Technologists, welcome to today's webinar, Reader Pen 2, Supporting All Learners. Joining us today from Scanning Pens is Tom Matuzels. Tom leads the Canadian team for Scanning Pens. He has worked in the ed tech field for the past 15 years, including leading teams at Apple and Discovery Education. So welcome, Tom. You're here today representing Scanning Pens, and I want to hand things over to you to start the webinar for us.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Doug. And thanks for inviting me. Welcome, everybody. I'm kind of excited. As you pointed out, I've been working in ed tech now for, I hate to say it's over 12 years, over 15 years at this point. Started my career working with the CBC and set up the CBC's learning services that we've been doing now. They've been doing that for over 20 years or so. Found myself here with a group called Scanning Pens that were able to introduce the text-to-speech devices around the world. So just give me a second here. You mind if I take over the screen here, and I will show you some pictures and a little presentation just to confirm that you can actually see the screen. Doug, this is good?
Yep, everything's coming through great, Tom. Thanks.
Fantastic. So I'm hoping that some of you have heard a little bit about Scanning Pens already, or the Reader Pen. I've heard it referred to in a number of different ways, including C-Pen and Scanning Pens and Reader Pen. Just to clarify things a little bit, C-Pen is the overall company that produces and manufactures and distributes the pen around the world. Reader Pen is the main product, and Scanning Pens is the distributing or the distribution arm. So really, when I refer to any of those three, I'm talking about the same thing. Reader Pen is by far the most popular scanning pen tool that we distribute. We distribute around the world, as you can see in countries like Canada, Australia, India, all throughout Europe. It's been recognized as the best technology tool in EdTech Digest. That just happened this year. And then if you're familiar with ISTE, then you're likely familiar with BET. BET is the British version of ISTE. It's the British Educational Technology Conference, one of the biggest conferences you'll find in Europe. We were named the top company in 2019. We've also been recognized throughout the world, including Australia. One thing to note is we are also associated under that big umbrella, as I've mentioned, around C-Pen. We do a lot of charitable work through our charity arm, which is called Succeed with Dyslexia. I won't spend a lot of time on Succeed with Dyslexia. However, every October, just to note, we do something called Go Red, which is a initiative, a campaign that goes worldwide, in which we encourage and work with institutions around the world, including colleges and universities. But a lot of times it's media broadcasters and parliament houses, and we light up the building in red in order to recognize and prompt discussions around dyslexia and other reading difficulties. So just a little quick overview about C-Pen and Scanning Pens. Here's a list of our lineup, of our product lineup. As I mentioned, we really emphasize Reader Pen, but we have 4 other products in which you can look into. The Exam Reader is our next most popular product after that. It is also a text-to-speech device. However, the main difference is for universities, colleges, and the K-12 sector, this locks out any of the storage capacity and any of the connectivity that the Reader Pen might have. So the Reader Pen has a lot of dictionaries and it has a lot of storage capacity, around 10 gigs. The Exam Reader has none of that. So it is ideal for a scenario in testing and exams. The Lingo Pen is a translation tool. It reads in 8 different languages. It scans through Chinese, Russian, Italian, English, French, Spanish, German, and it translates on the spot. The one caveat that I will mention on the Lingo Pen, it only translates word by word. So we are now working towards adopting a pen that will then, or the technology to translate an entire sentence. But for now, this simply translates word by word. Secure is a pen. Secure and Connect are pens that are not connected to the internet, or not, sorry, Secure is not connected to the internet. Connect is connected to your laptop by Bluetooth. The Connect pen does not actually read text to you. However, it's the one that you want to use if you want to scan printed document into your computer very quickly and efficiently. It does it through Bluetooth and scans a text, printed text, into your laptop pretty quick. As you'll see, the Reader pen does the same, but it does through a wired scenario. So that's a quick little lineup of some of the products that we have. Just a underscore, I skipped over the Secure. The Secure is mainly used in the corrections institutes and prisons across North America, and also in the workplace scenario, because of course all the information is secure and it's a private lockdown scenario. So I'll just quickly walk us through what you get in the box before we jump into a demo. I'm just going to walk you through a couple more slides to sort of whet your appetite as we head towards the pen, and then I'll do a live demo in which you can jump in and ask any questions that you like. But within the pen, I get a lot of questions about this, is that the charging cable exists in each and every box. The charging cable doubles as a cable that you can plug into your laptop to allow to scan the file, to scan to your Word document or your Google document. And then finally, the headphones that come, there's a set of headphones that are available in every single box. So that makes it a very complete, self-sufficient package for you. The carrying case is a nice touch as well. So just to start the ball rolling, when you start thinking about the features that are included in the Reader 2 pen, the Reader 2 pen instantly converts your printed word into audio through your headphones, obviously. But there are so many more features that are involved in that, and I'll be getting into that in just a second here. This is just a kind of a graphical representation of what we'll be covering in the next 20 minutes or so. But when you think about the Reader pen, some of the key features that you look at, it scans and processes 4 different languages: English, French, Spanish, and Italian. There are 6 dictionaries that are built into the system that correspond to the languages. So that means that you have an instant definition and a pronunciation of the word. There is an audio boost so that you can have a clear and high quality voice that you can listen to. What's great, and I think a great feature, is there are multiple accents. For English, for example, there is the British accent, there's an American, there is an Australian, Scottish, Irish accents that you can use to listen to the voice. And that really, although seems kind of trivial and fun, when you are working with kids and students that are reluctant readers, any small little layer can be the game changer to engage them in reading. So again, lots of customizable voices to play with. I've already mentioned the scan to file feature, lots of storage within the machine. And what I want to point out, and I think what might be of note to you, is that it's fully customizable. And when I say fully customizable, what I'm referring to is the fact that you can increase or decrease the reading speed, so the voice can speed up or slow down. You can also increase and decrease the pause between words. One other feature that we have is the pause for punctuation. It allows you to speed up or slow down the punctuation, and we'll try and show you that as it goes. What's really important is when I work with people like Dr. Cunningham at N.O.A.T here in Toronto, it's very important. He tells me how important it is when we have neurodiverse users of the product that they're able to customize the tool to match how they decode and process information. So a very important piece of the puzzle when you're considering a text-to-speech device. You know this better than I do. The more customization, the better. Again, some of the key benefits that will that once we see the product we should get to, but extreme cost savings that we're looking at. The discrete nature of the device allows you to look at possibly replacing the human reader. The simplicity of distributing the pen, because it's such a small pen, it is basically a highlighter pen the size of a highlighter that you hold in your hand. It is wonderful for having in an exam situation that supports the student without any disruption and without the need of, let's say, additional rooms or additional proctors or other accommodations in a side room. You can have the student participate in the exam room and use the pen through the set of headphones. So who benefits from these kinds of pens? Over the past 5 years that we've been operating across Canada, we've come to understand that there are a number of different categories that the pen falls into. Obviously, in an ELL and the ESL program, this pen is extremely important for language acquisition and vocabulary building, comprehension, those pieces, as well as trying to address some of the reading-related loss that took place during COVID. Another area is communication and interaction. So I talk about the power of focus. And as we'll see in a moment, there is a level of multimodal learning that takes place when you are using the pen. Not only do you have the auditory nature of learning when you're actually hearing the text read back to you, but the visual aspect of learning that takes place because the word is highlighted as it reads the word out to you, which we'll see in just a moment here. Oh, my speaker just decided to turn off. Give me a second here. Turn my speaker back on. So important things to consider. I'll go through this. The other social, emotional, and mental health side of things. Immediate feedback, rapid decoding, and finally sensory and physical needs. Audio focusing for ADHD, that also talks about the power of focus when we consider ADHD and low vision and anything really that results in a kind of a reading fatigue. I want to go back up to the newcomers at the top there as a benefit. And what we've really seen shine is especially, I don't know if anyone is from Norquest College here, but Norquest College has now adopted and implemented the reader pen into their LINK program. And that is supporting newcomers to Canada, but they use it for language acquisition, for building vocabulary for their newcomers through their LINK program. An extremely successful launch. We did that about last November, and it is met with extreme, lots of potential, put it that way. Here's some feedback that we've heard from other users across the country, including at the K-12 level with the Halifax Regional Education Center. And it really highlights some of the things that we see the pen landing in: promoting student independence, building confidence and success for the student, and finally around reading difficulties. Oops, pardon me. Some of the reading difficulties, which is struggling to read very short books, and now kids are being able to read books unassisted. So very, very appropriate, I find. So let me just stop here for a second here. I'll stop sharing and we'll jump over to the demo, and you'll be able to see the pen. So this is the illustrious pen, as I have mentioned it. Hopefully you can, this is an okay size.
It's not coming through quite yet, Tom. And just while you're setting that up, just a reminder to the participants with us today is if you have questions for Tom, pop them into the chat or unmute or raise your hand, and we'll get you on with Tom.
I see that Detroit, Michigan. So we've got some people coming in from the. Did it jump yet to the?
There, it's coming through just now. There you go, Tom.
Perfect. Thanks, Doug. I tried to have the. There we go. I think everyone can see this now. So this is the illustrious pen, as we have indicated. And I keep mentioning here, let's just start with the back end. I have plugged in the speaker into the mini plug here that you can attach. I've plugged a speaker into it. That's where you normally plug your headphones in. And also right next to it, as you can see there, there is a small little micro USB plug, and that's for your charger cable. And that allows you to plug it into your laptop to do scan to file if you so desire, or that allows you to then charge it quickly. The battery is a lithium battery. It has 8 hours of continuous battery life or continuous use. And as you'll see, you really don't use it 8 hours at a time. You use it more in 30-second increments. So you're able to use this pen over the course of a week with no problems. Right now, I'm sitting at about, this morning, I had the pen set up at 68%, and I've been using it all week. So it has a great battery life. So simply to engage this program and the pen, you hit the red button and it turns it on and it brings you to this screen. This screen, we've moved now to a new version of it with icons as opposed to text. So the icons, obviously, if you're having trouble reading, the icons help you significantly. But they really do a nice job of identifying all the nice features that you have available to you to work through and to learn about. So the reader is obvious. The dictionary indicates the various dictionary modes that you can go into. You can simply scan a word and get a definition. I'll use an example here. And let's just put it down and simply, you can see now we've got the word highlighted. I press enter. I have chosen to use OPD, which is the Oxford Primary Dictionary in English, and I press enter.
Inquiry. Inquiries. Noun and official investigation.
So it provides you and reads you back quickly your definition of the word. Now, as you heard there, I've already set up, I've set up the system so that it only reads when I ask it to read, and I press the middle button. You remember the iPod of years ago, this is how you navigate throughout. So you use the left button to move across and the right button to move back and forth. So that's the dictionary. There's the recorder. The recorder function allows you to record your voice and to make some kind of a voice recording and as a reminder to what you need to do. It also allows you to, if you look here, I'll just move back here. It allows you to add music files or to record music if you want to add, and becomes your MP3 player at the same time. The library is where all this text and everything that you save to your system, that's the storage unit, allows you to save there. This is a mode that we think is very important because we know, and as you well know, working in assistive technology and anybody who has learning disabilities around reading, repetition is key. And so this is a mode, especially when it's assigned to a specific student, the practice mode. So I enter the practice mode. And I want to keep it on English, and it recognizes the words that I have repeatedly been scanning. So over time, I will start to collect a library of words that is telling me, and there I have 20 words that I've now been using a lot of, and pocket seems to be one of them, and I press enter, and it reads it back to me.
Pocket.
So you can then practice these words.
Number. Children.
It is a wonderful tool that allows you to simply practice some of the words that you are having trouble with. Now you can imagine, especially in ESL, if you're looking at an ESL area, this is a wonderful tool for you to practice your words. Let's just quickly go through our setup wizard. One of the first things you should do if you are considering trying out the pen is to do the run wizard. And this will nicely walk us through all the features that we have available to you. If you've noticed, as I move through the screens, it hasn't been repeating the screen to me because I have it in silent mode. You can then switch it to talking mode, but frankly, that drives me crazy because every time you switch a screen, it speaks to you, and that becomes annoying rather quickly. There you choose your languages that you get to have. What language would you like to have it scanned in? And then this is what I was talking about, the different voices. So you have the British voice, you have the American voice, we have the Indian, Australian. I haven't loaded the other voices yet, but you can certainly jump into Scottish and Irish if you need. Another great feature is the fact that it's a left-handed or a right-handed tool. So depending on the needs of the student, they can then switch it to their right-handed or their left-handed. Here are the dictionaries that you have, but and I have, as I mentioned, I've set it up for to have the auto read set off. I have a certain speed set up, number 4. Another piece is the volumes that goes up to the volume of a boost volume 5. So there are 10 settings, and then you go up to an additional 5 more settings, and I've got them set up to 2 here. This is what I was mentioning about word pause. I've got it set up for 0 now. I've got a very minor punctuation pause so that I can actually get it to read in the proper speed for my decoding and my processing. So now let's get on to the fun part. So this is the pen. The pen is essentially an OCR camera, OCR technology. And the nub that you see here on the tip is activated when it touches the paper. And normally, an easy way to learn is that when the pen touches the paper, the camera is activated. You know the camera is activated if the light comes on. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then inside the magic happens. So here I'm going to go down to a text, and we are just going to go. It's like a highlighter pen. I hold it on a slight angle, not straight up, and not all the way over, because of course it's a camera. So you want to consider basically like a highlighter pen. Put it down. The pen lights up, and you simply scan across the page. Now let's quickly do let's go up to the top here.
What is our responsibility as members of a global community?
Now, the reason why it looks a little odd with that last word is because I lifted the pen up before we hit the end of the page. So I can do that again. And it's ready to scan, and I put it on this edge. And I'm just using Teach Magazine, and you'll notice.
Inquiry. What is our responsibility as members of A?
So that's where I left it. Now, as soon as I've finished reading it, I can either go back and listen to it again, or I can save the text to my library, in which I will say yes. And it's ready to go again and read again, and I can move over. What's interesting to note here is that I'm going to start, well, we're not here. I'll move the camera down a little bit so you can see. So I'm going to move from right to left now in the same, and I'll read it. However, if you notice, you can see the text there. It's now put the text in the proper order.
Exploring issues like hunger, food insecurity, homelessness, and poverty.
I didn't quite get that, so I hit it again.
By exploring issues like hunger, food insecurity, homelessness, and poverty.
So what's interesting is now I can go into and activate the dictionary, and I simply highlight the word that I would like to have the definition for. I hit menu, and at the bottom of the screen it says look up word. I scroll down to that portion, and
poverty. Poverty is being poor.
Now, again, that is the Oxford Primary Dictionary. You can switch it over to the Collins Dictionary, which is an American-based dictionary, and you'll have a different definition there. The Collins dictionary is more sophisticated and complex. Oftentimes this pen is being used for younger children, so we need very rudimentary, dare I say, primary definitions for the word. So let me stop there. If there are any questions at all in the system, Doug?
There's nothing in the chat presently, Tom. Anybody wishes to add, please do in the chat or raise your hand or unmute and we can bring you on by voice. We'll just give it a moment if anybody's looking to unmute their microphone or raise their hand on the Google Meet toolbar. Is there anybody out there with application questions of whether this has been used in certain settings or how you might apply some of these features? Athol, why would you choose to send the text or save the text to the library?
Right, that's a great question, Athol. Thanks. The ability to save text over here and going into the library allows me to now go back and review some of the text that I was struggling with, and it allows me just to simply reinforce some of the learning that took place. You can see that I've got something here. That was an earlier one that we have text that we saved and we scanned, but it allows me to go back. This is especially useful for when the pen has been assigned to you, not in some cases, and your question is very appropriate, Doug, because it's context, right? Sometimes we use the pen in the classroom, in the scenario in the classroom, and when someone just gets up, grabs the pen, uses it as required, then puts it back at the end of the day. Another application for this pen is specifically one-to-one, so that the student keeps it for the entire time of the term, the entire semester, and they go home. And typically when they get home, perhaps they want to review some of that material. I talked about the ability to do scan to text, to dump some of the quotations that you would read into your paper that you're writing. Let's say you're sitting in the classroom, and if you do have a reading disability or you're dyslexic, the chore of trying to transcribe a piece of printed word into your document, into your laptop, is quite a chore to do. So this helps you to push it over into your laptop quickly, and you can also do that through your save to text. So once it's saved into your library, you can dump it into your laptop if required.
Okay, perfect. Tom, I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but your document camera just timed out there.
That's right. Yeah, no, it did time out, but that's fine. Actually, that if somebody, that's a quick little overview of how the pen works. I don't know if I can answer any questions regarding it specifically about the pen, but if you have any questions, some scenarios, actually, you bring up a good point. And what we've learned is in the case of Northwest College in Edmonton, where they've used it with their ESL students, they have actually they've purchased 150 pens, and they've distributed those 150 pens in 15 classrooms. And they do so in our 10-pack. And they take the 10-pack with a briefcase, and they leave it at the front of the classroom. And it's really empowering for the student because you have the ability to decide on your own whether you need the pen or not. So you have the pen open at the front of the classroom. When the student arrives, they take the pen as needed, and they return it when they're done using it. What's just an aside here, and I know you're thinking, Lou, there's headphones involved in all this. Well, Amazon offers a very low-cost option of a Bluetooth plug-in, where you plug in a small device, a transmitter, into the the headphone plug that then transmits it to your own personal headphones if you need that. So there's an additional piece that you may want to think about. So students come into the classroom, they pick it up. Conversely, if it's an exam scenario, as we've seen this very popular in the UK and across Canada in the K-12 scenarios, for supporting a student in an exam scenario, that we see that the pens sit at the front of the room, and they are assigned to the student as they come in for the test. They grab the pen, they grab their headphones, they sit down. They don't have to go to a special room. They don't have to have a special human reader to go with them, and another proctor to sit with them to watch in another room. So that actually reduces the cost of the pen, or the cost to you by introducing the pen. So you no longer have to pay for a proctor. You no longer have to pay for a human reader, the added expense of having another room. These kinds of things add up, I would imagine, very quickly. And the cost of our pen is about $380 Canadian. And that allows you over a number of years to use the pen. So significant cost savings, as I mentioned earlier, when you're introducing the pen in that kind of a scenario. Another interesting scenario that I've seen in the K-12 market space is that teachers have set it up to be left-handed and right-handed, and they simply have a bowl at the front of the room marked how they've set the room, or how they've set the pen up, customize the pen. And students know that they can just simply walk up to the front of the room, grab a pen and use it. An important piece there, this brings up I think an important piece, is that this is not a tool to teach you how to speak English or how to learn how to read. This helps you get over those challenges and barriers that you may have in reading. Dyslexia, just because I am, for instance, a slower reader, it doesn't mean I'm not comprehending, or I have a lack of intelligence. The pen helps me get through some of those barriers that exist, just simply because of my decoding and processing issues. I don't know whether that resonates with you, some of you that are on this call, but there are a number of different scenarios where this pen simply removes barriers and helps the students along, which allows them to continue with their learning. This doesn't teach them how to read. The point that came up in Norquest was that they have a range of ESL students, some of those that have never encountered the English language at all. This is not the tool for them. Someone who's just coming into learning how to reach teaching or learn English needs to have the teacher with them on the side. However, someone that's a little, even 6 months in, one semester in, now they're at home and they're trying to use they're trying to read a text. They can't decode the text. They're stuck until the next day, until they come back and connect with the teacher. Instead, have the pen right there, and that allows them to get through a little bit of comprehension.
All right. It's a great
another example of that, actually, sorry, Doug, if I can just one more. I mean, it just dawned on me because we work a lot with the Mennonite community, and the Mennonite community here in Ontario are connected to a lot of the school boards. And during harvest season, the kids, the children don't come into the school during regular school hours. Instead, they are supplied with lesson plans and lessons that are on paper. They get big binders with the lessons. Some of the Mennonites have trouble reading English and reading English language. Although they can speak English fine, they have trouble decoding and reading English. With the pen, now they have distributed the pen out to the Mennonite community, because if they encounter a problem in the evening, there's no teacher to access them. They're not online, they're not available by email. So that means they've lost an entire lesson day, and so they have to wait till the next day. The reader pen, by distributing the reader pen to the Mennonites, they have wholeheartedly embraced the pen to allow them to get over those small challenges that they have when reading a text. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw it there as another scenario for you.
Okay, that's great. I appreciate those examples, Tom. They help put it into perspective in the different environments. And speaking of different ways of using it, Michael is just asking in the chat here of if the pen is able to scan multiple lines of text in one go, and if so, if you could demonstrate that.
Absolutely, great question, Michael. Thanks for bringing that up. I forgot to do that. Let me just pull up our screen again. Yeah. An interesting feature is that not only does it read right to left or left to right, I'm still on the same page here, but you can see that, let me just go back. I have to jump back to our reader. I press enter to get into the reading function, and there it's ready to go. Pretty fast, right? There's very little latency, by the way. It's blazing fast as far as the scanning is concerned. So we're going to do this paragraph. We'll do a couple of lines here. Again, I'm waiting for it to light up, and then I scan across. I lift it up, and now I just continue on. Now you can see how it has captured in the screen all the text that we've just starting off with by exploring. And I'll just get us back to the top. And I'll just leave it. See if you can see that. So by exploring is right there. I'll just press enter. So now again, just a reminder, I've set it for auto read to be off so that it only reads when I want it to. You can set it to turn the auto read on, which means that every time you lift the pen, every time you disengage the camera, it automatically starts to read. So
Exploring issues like hunger, food insecurity, homelessness, and poverty, students will begin to recognize the importance of being active, engaged citizens in both their local and global communities. Educators will act as facilitators too.
Michael, does that help?
Just a quick follow-up there for Michael. Michael says thank you in the chat. A quick follow-up to that, Tom, is you say if you put it into an auto read, every time you lift the pen, it starts reading. So if I was to scan one line, lift the pen to go to the beginning of the other line, and it starts reading, will it buffer and hold the second line in memory? Like, can I scan while it's reading, I guess is the other way to ask that.
Let's find out. How about that? I turned it, I just switched the, I switched auto read on, and now I'll jump back to scan to read and do the same text. The problem is that some people aren't always as consistent. So now it's just going to read.
Exploring issues like students will begin to recognize the importance of being active, engaged citizens.
See, what you notice is that it, as soon as you lift it up the second time, it begins to read from the second portion.
And I'm wondering,
Right,
Kelly has just put something into the chat that I remember from the menus of the pens, and I'm not sure if this is applicable to what just happened there, Tom. Is Kelly is mentioning that it no longer has an append or replace option.
It does have the append. It does have the append and replace.
Would that be affecting the reading there? Okay.
It will. It does. I have it set to append. So that I can do an entire paragraph. Now, for the reading scenario, every time it'll read that sentence. Now, to your point, which is, if I go to if I continue to scan, will it just buffer the text? That I'm not sure about, because we've set it to, let's say, read. The append will simply keep adding sentences as you continue, or lines as you go down. The read will simply just read whatever it's put into. I don't know whether it will buffer it, though.
All right, so we've stumped Tom.
You've stumped Tom.
All right. So something for Tom to test out, and if it doesn't, then that goes back to the product development team for the next update. So
these things can always change.
Yeah, they can change. They could be ready to be releasing the update as we're asking about it, for all we know, Tom. There's a couple other questions that have come in here, and one of them is again regarding the scanning there, and I think you have some examples on that page that you're looking at in the book that would help answer this. Is whether the different font sizes that the pen's able to scan and read. So you've got some headings
100%.
and subheadings and things like that on that page there.
Yeah, I will say the drawback, or one of the limitations of the pen, is that it cannot read a graphic novel. It can't read graphic text. It can't read the written word, or yeah, the handwriting, right? It won't scan handwriting. However, it does keep in mind that this, I think we're still seeing the visualizer, right? The
Yes, we are.
document camera.
Yeah.
So this is the camera here, right here. And so think of this as the aperture of the lens. So typically it should be able to capture something as big as this, the poverty. And sure enough,
Poverty, food insecurity, and hopelessness.
I lifted up my pen just as I was texting or scanning. So let me try that again. That's why it read homelessness kind of awkwardly.
Poverty, food insecurity, and homelessness.
So there is, I mean, it's about a 90% average that you get onto it, but you can see the page is a little crinkled right there. And my text, my hand moved. So it read food as Todd, which I often do in real life, but that's another issue on entirely. But here it reads at about it has a fairly high recognition factor, but when we hit some occasions where I'm in a cramped space here, but I lift the pen at inappropriate times, it doesn't quite capture it. It captures a lot of text and size of text, but I'm thrown that.
Global issues.
And now we also have the, so yes, it does capture some, it doesn't capture all text. Let me see how small it can get. Here we have some small words that we want to read. And we'll
Finds
see.
a treasure.
So we have Pablo finds a treasure.
Pablo finds a treasure bee.
Okay, so sometimes it's not always perfect, but hey.
Pablo finds a treasure tea.
So the T comes from the next round, as you can see. So it has a lot to do with precision on lifting it up at the proper time if you are using small fonts. Again, I will emphasize that it struggles with graphic novels, which is a problem with some of the junior grades that we're looking at here.
We'll blame that on the publisher, Tom. It can't be the pen's fault. And Athol also added here that the lighter colored serif font can't help either. So again, the publisher. Yeah, we'll pick on the publisher who's not here to defend themselves. But
you know, and there are issues. So glossy paper. This I don't know if you can see it, but this is a glossy paper. This is a magazine that I just randomly chose called Teach Magazine. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. But it's glossy paper, and depending on the angle, again, it's about camera lights that reflecting into the camera. However, I will say again and again, the OCR technology is getting better day by day, and with each iteration, we constantly are updating the firmware and the software inside and the operating system to stay abreast of what's happening in the technology.
All right. And Kelly had asked a question about reading handwriting or printing or duplicate copies in a chart and that. So handwriting or print, printing done by hand or cursive writing. And I think you've answered that is that it doesn't do the greatest on that. Definitely not cursive. If printing is close enough to typed text and with enough clarity, it might.
You are correct. Is that the cursive writing it struggles with. However, if you are replicating the printed word and you are good at writing in an Arial 16 font size text, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I can't read my own writing or printing, no matter what size or font I'm attempting to use. So, one interesting point that Kelly is added here is or copies in a chart, duplicate copies in a chart, and I'm kind of reading into that carbonless paper copies. Does the coating, the chemical coating on the paper, the second copy, does that impact its reading at all?
That's an excellent question. I will have to look into that, but I don't believe it will, because I don't believe it will have a trouble with that, because again, it's a camera that is simply, as long as the text is visible, the camera will convert that.
Okay, perfect. Margaret was asking about the storage capacity, music, dictionary, etc. Like it sounds like a lot of information can be stored on there, and then there's a lot of system space used up with the workings of the pen. So, what kind of capacity are we dealing with, Tom?
We have a 12 gig capacity that you can load up your own personal documents. Yes, you're right. 4 gigs it takes up on the OS and the dictionaries and whatnot, but you have lots of room to put the entire works of Shakespeare onto this if need be.
So 16 gigs in total, 4 taken up then by the system.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. And something you just triggered in my mind, I'm going to be selfish and ask the next question here, is the music library. You said you can add in your own MP3s and listen to them. Can you listen to those as background music while you're listening, like have it playing while you're doing the scanning?
No, you can't do that. That's a separate thing.
All right, so that'll be coming in the recommendation for the next version.
And that will be called the Doug version.
Yes.
I understand, and we'll look into that. I saw a question regarding firmware updates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tammy's asking, how does it get the firmware updates for when the Doug version comes out?
This is the cable that you get with the, and this is a multifunctional cable. It comes with every single pen, and when you plug it in, it asks you the options that would you like to scan the file feature? Would you like to charge, or would you like the U-disk, which essentially converts the pen to an external hard drive? And once that becomes a hard drive, you can then load in your music. You can also load in and update the new files for your firmware. So you get that from our website. You simply, using the cable, you data transfer it over to your machine, and then open it up, and then it converts to the machine, into the system.
Perfect. And just a further note on that, listening to the music at the same time, from a higher ed perspective, we quite often are supporting students with an accommodation and exams for listening to music for various reasons. And at the same time, they might need a traditional tool, standalone tool, software based on the computer for reading support. Whereas if the pen could do both at the same time, that something to pass back to your development team, Tom.
I hadn't considered that, and in fact, that's a great. I didn't think that you would have accommodation for listening to music, but it's good to know that, and I will explore it. It's a great idea. You can have that all built into that one tool that you have. And again, I want to emphasize how this is a simple, very discreet, small handheld tool that doesn't make you stand out in the classroom. It's very portable. So easy to hand out, easy to distribute in the classroom, so or in the exam room, as the case may be. So there are many applications. One of them being how small and discreet it is. I liken it to the size of a highlighter pen.
Yep. And in addition, to save in the higher ed environments, we don't need one proctor to 10 rooms or 15 rooms. We need one proctor to a room of 40 or 50 students, spaced out with a bowl of those at the front of the class for students who only need reading support.
Yeah, I mean, and if we talk together and you talk to me. Once you go into kind of a volume scenario, we have a carrying case that is very helpful. And the carrying case holds 10 pens and 10 headphones and 10 chargers that you then can very conveniently move this around from classroom to classroom, from exam room to exam room. I should point out just before we go any further about costs. Again, when you're speaking with volume, there are special pricing that we have around volume for colleges and universities. But right now, here on this call, for those of you who have joined the call, unfortunately, I can only extend an offer to those of you from Canada. But I'm sure if you reach out to your my US colleagues, which I can happily help you out with, we're offering significant discounts on the pen for joining us on this call. The pen retails for $380. It has a 1-year warranty. The only area that really we have trouble, or we get feedback on, it's not trouble, but is that nub right there. The pen is very robust. The only thing is occasionally I have heard stories that the nub, the tip at the front of this pen occasionally has trouble. The pen, as I say, $380. But if you reach out to us and mention the fact that you are a member of N.O.A.T, then we will reduce the price to $355. So that's a $25 discount we'll take off the top of the pen.
Perfect. All right. Appreciate you extending that, Tom. That's great. And yeah, we'll make sure that that's circulated to all the Canadian N.O.A.T or all to the N.O.A.T members in general, as well as to the for the replay of this this event. That's perfect. Appreciate that. There's lots of questions that have come into the chat, and lots of questions and comments. To get back on track here and catch up, Wink, just add to the music and exams. Wink is just saying that they always screen anything to be used during playback and exams, including white noise and or music. That students can bring in the music in advance, load it in, but then we don't allow students to bring in their own recorded listening files. So I just I sense that there's some different opportunities with the reading pens to be able to kind of do that and preload it for the students as well. So and just put a sticky on it on the pen with their name at the front of the class, and it's ready for them.
That's interesting you note that, because we offer typically when we sell the product in bulk, it comes with this little carrying case and a protector. And what the K-12 schools, and it has an ability to link to a lanyard that you can then hang around your neck. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this, it's a clear plastic case. And here in Toronto at the school board here, they've used that case to put in an indicator, like a sticky inside, to indicate that this pen has been set up to be French. This pen has been set up to be left-handed or right-handed, or this pen has white noise loaded into it. This pen has this style of music built into it. With these cases, you can then indicate on the back of it with a simple sticky note what the purpose is, and then have your buckets, bowls, or briefcases at the front that students can then just reach and use. So Wink, that's a wonderful idea. I love that. I hadn't thought about the idea of using the accommodation of white noise to help the student focus.
Perfect. All right. So we've got just a comment going back to your scanning and some of the difficulties there. Just by scanning every other line in reverse, does it confuse readers in the reader pens in the reading sequence?
Could you repeat that? I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, when you're scanning every other line in reverse, does it confuse the reader pens in reading sequence? If I'm correct in
right.
that question,
So
if I'm not, please whoever's asking the question, please speak up if I'm misinterpreting. It was actually it was Wink.
A lot of times, what we're doing with this is teaching. The key with the dyslexia issue is linking the ability to highlight words and have your eyes move along with the words as they're highlighted. And if in American English or Canadian English is read from left to right. And when you're scanning a line from right to left, then your eyes are not tracking the way we're taught to read.
That's correct. So it's not necessary for you to do right to left. It is a number here in the course of demonstrating. A number of K-12 students or K-12 teachers, they just want to do the S pattern, going back and forth, but then what step that you're missing is it only starts to read back when you've stopped scanning. So it highlights it when you've stopped scanning. And I would recommend that you use the append issue and not the read issue in that case. Am I following that correctly, Wink?
Yes, I think it's really a matter of setting which preference that you have. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's an issue around becoming too customizable. So people were asking about having it scan left to right and right to left. But as you say, if you're reinforcing the reading and you're constantly here in American English, we read, or in North America, we read right to left to right. And I tend to always scan. I begin again at the beginning of the line on the left-hand side. I don't do the right-hand side. But for convenience and for speed, if you want to, or convenience of quickly scanning an entire paragraph, you can quickly scan the entire paragraph going in that S pattern all the way down, and then after you've completed successfully in scanning the paragraph, you press enter and it begins to read for you in the proper way. And you then revert, and as I did here, I put the pen below the text that I'd scanned, and I could actually, double check and look at the text and look at the screen and watch the screen as it highlighted the word that it was speaking. Hope that helps.
Okay, great. Appreciate that, Tom. Oh, sorry,
Thank
go
you.
ahead, Wink.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you. It does help. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the S pattern is the way to get through the text quickly. But speaking of letters of the alphabet, Sam is asked the question that's a burning question that's on all of our minds here, Tom. What does the C in CPEN stand for?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. This is a wonderful tool from the internet age and the way we all work in supply chain. So our designer and engineer is based in Sweden. So my guess, it has to do something in Swedish. Our distributors and scanning pens, the company, we exist in the UK. We're based in the UK, and the manufacturers are in Vietnam. So let me go back and find out what the C pen stands for. And we'll get, it might be because Peter, who is the designer and originator, he lives in Malmö, which is right next to the ocean. Maybe it's as simple as that, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you, Doug.
All right, perfect. I've always wondered it myself as well. And in one of the advertisements for the webinar today, I said, "Have you seen," or something to the effect of, "Have you make sure you see the pen," or I forget exactly how I played on it. So it gives those of us who are trying to promote the pen an opportunity too. So
I love it. Convenient.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Canada.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Canada pen.
All right. Thanks for asking that, Sam. It's definitely been on our minds. So I got a couple questions here in regards to the CPEN 1, CPEN 2. Yes. One question is about updating the firmware on a CPEN 1. Jim's wanting to know if you run the firmware update with, is there some way that the update differentiates between the two pens? Because he's seeing that there's no update for the CPEN 1. So I think Jim might be secretly asking, can you sneak an update into the CPEN 1 and make it a CPEN 2? Yeah,
good question. No, unfortunately not. The CPEN 2 is a complete overhaul of the OS. And so therefore the firmwares, they won't stick on the CPEN 1, or as I call it, the OG pen. The OG pen doesn't, it won't allow you to add the new firmwares to.
All right, and in a follow-up to that, we were being asked whether there was ever going to be any updates to the CPEN 1 and what were the differences between the two. So any options for the CPEN 1 users?
Yeah, at this point, no. We can offer you an upgrade. I can the pen reader that goes back a long ways. The OG is a few. The OG I refer to as CPEN 1. The pen reader is even further back from that. But we can certainly engage in a discussion if you're looking to upgrade your CPEN 1s to the CPEN 2. They are considered really completely different products at this point because of the OS is so radically different. The difference is the latency. There's zero latency, the speed of the processing. And I mentioned Dr. Todd Cunningham from U of T a while back. He worked with us on a tuning and I guess focusing in and making the voice even better. So the voice has to do with the range of frequency, and decoding and processing information requires a full range of audio. And we found that our voice in C1 was too compressed for some readers. And so Dr. Cunningham suggested to us some tweaks in order to make the voice a little better. So really, when it comes down to a better audio quality, the new icons that allow you to move through, the practice mode that is in there that allows you to practice some of the words that you have in there, and then a much higher processing.
All right, so lots of improvements there between the two pens. So I think it was Athol who asked that question, and Athol, Tom would be happy to sell you an upgrade. Or two.
I'd be happy to help you out and figure out a way to accommodate the fact that you have older machines. And I'll do an exclusive, Doug, an exclusive for N.O.A.T. There is another pen coming down the pipe, and it is called the Reader Pen Pro. The Reader Pen Pro will, again, completely upgrade. It won't supersede the Reader Pen 2. The Reader Pen 2 will stay, but the new Reader Pen Pro will have a larger screen, will have a color screen, and will have a number of other features, including an improvement on the voice. So that's about a year down the path now. We're still looking at next January, January of the launch. They're working on this new pen. And for me, the biggest part is, and I get the question all the time, is for a color screen. It's a larger color screen so that the font size increases as well.
All right, perfect. Athol, don't upgrade yet. No matter how good the deal is, wait to get Tom to honor that upgrade offer with the new Pro coming out. So, and hopefully Tom will bring the Pro back to us and show us that in action. So that's great. And Jim just wanted to clarify the OG pen. Is that the one that's also referred to as the pen reader?
Right, I mentioned that earlier. There is a pen reader that was, I think that was about more than 5 years ago, I think. So it's been around for a while. This company has been around for 20 years now, distributing the scanning pen.
All right.
I will send you an email, though, Doug, and get a definitive answer on C-Pen.
All right. Kelly, I think unfortunately just left the meeting, but Kelly had another question here saying, before the pandemic, we ordered a number of reader and exam reader pens, and over the pandemic, they didn't get used as often or at all. And now many of them are not working. Who would they contact for support?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. That's a great question for everyone to hear this. Please reach out to me directly. This was obviously, from everyone's point of view, unexpected scenario. As you well know, being an AT, the lithium battery is a very quirky, unique piece of equipment. It needs to be constantly fed and constantly charged. If a pen sits uncharged, if a lithium battery sits uncharged for 2 years, they become worthless, unfortunately. And then we ran into that around the world. Initially, we were offering, we were trying to come to some kind of a reasonable balance in replacing those pens. So now it being now a good year after everything started to slowly open up, we're dealing with things on a case-by-case scenario. So please reach out to me directly. I can pop up my contact information in a moment here, and or is it on the email?
It'll be on the replay, and I have it here that I'll be adding into the chat in a little bit for you. So I was going to be adding it in a little bit, so I'll just do that right now. And just bear with me a second here while I do that. Yeah, so that's great. It's we'll make sure that Kelly gets that information about reaching out to you directly, and there it is, the information in the chat for everyone. It's scanningpens.com or Thomas, THOMAS at scanningpens.com for you there.
Yeah,
so
feel free to reach out. Someone asked a great question just now about the workplace scenario. And this is an area that has become increasingly important. I'll share with you and so the answer is yes. We are appearing, and it is being placed in all sorts of different areas. I'll share with you an interesting call that we just received about a month ago from a trucking company in Alberta. And they found that some of the truckers, I'll give you two instances. One was the trucking company, and they found that some of the truckers had struggled with reading, yet they were alone on the road in their truck, in their cab, with their waybill orders and their instructions on a piece of paper, sitting on the seat next to them, and they couldn't read it. And this proved to be an issue. But thankfully, the trucking company wanted to support their employees and reached out to us and purchased a large number of pens to then distribute to all their truckers that they would then have in the cabs of all their trucks as they went out to do deliveries and do their long haul deliveries. It was a fascinating story in which she said she purchased the pens, and now oftentimes in many work scenarios, people are nervous about stepping forward. You guys know this, about putting your hand up in a certain scenario, and saying that you can't understand or can't read something. The other example is we are working very closely with police chiefs and firefighters across the US, and we're just starting into Canada. Again, that's a very, very, how do I say this? A very testosterone-filled industry, and you don't want to come across as having any kind of indications of being weak. Yet, when working with police chiefs, they have found a huge need for the pen to be placed again, just to make them aware and have them in their police stations and in firehouses. And they have noticed that they've been picked up and used. Many people don't want to admit that they struggle with reading, but the pen is discreet enough that I can keep it in my jacket. I can tuck it away here in my pocket, and when I need to, I can then pull it out, and it helps me over that bump. It's a huge game changer in those kinds of industries.
Perfect. All right. And I know that one of your colleagues, Dave Parks, some people on this call might know Dave Parks from days gone by in scanning pens and world. Dave works primarily with the population in prisons that you mentioned earlier with that secure pen version, and helping in the prisons and that. So there's lots of workplace and kind of places you might not initially expect to be using a reader pen, but that they're coming in handy.
Absolutely. Non-traditional workplaces. And well, what we've seen is everybody knows this. I think if you work in education and whatnot, there is a correlation between a high rate of incarceration and low levels of education. And the corrections industries or institutions are working hard to improve educational standards in corrections facilities. And that's one of the pieces that we are working very closely with. The reader pen supports that initiative in order to bring down the high rate of incarceration. In fact, we're working very closely with the University of Calgary on doing a study on the impact of the pen in cell use. So using the pen in the cell without another teacher involved, and they go to their occasional classes, but they get to use the pen in their cell on their own. And the Canada Corrections recently approved that to take place, and they are saying that there's a remarkable improvement in literacy rates with the use of the pen. So yes, you're out, and thanks for that question. It's the other workplace areas and non-traditional parts of our society where we're starting to see the pen appear.
Perfect. Appreciate you asking that, Linda. It's a great question, and I think we have a few members from that institution that's doing that research. So I'm glad you clarified it wasn't just the institution, that it was them helping you do this. Yeah, I'm just envisioning students in. Never mind. My Friday afternoon, my mind went a little rogue there. So, all right. So I think I've caught up on the questions in the chat. And if I've missed somebody's question, please put it back in right now, or speak up, unmute your microphone, raise your hand. If there's any other questions out there from anyone, please again, raise your hand, unmute the microphone, add it into the chat. We want to catch all the thoughts and questions before we kind of wrap up here for the day. And I know that we had a couple people just join in, unfortunately a little late, and they've missed the demonstration and that, but don't let that stop you if you have any questions for Tom, even if something we've already gone over. Obviously the replay will be sent out to people who have registered, but if there's questions on anybody's mind, please let's hear them. So well, we're given just a few moments for those last minute questions. Either people raise their hand, unmute the microphone, or add it into the chat. Tom, I just want to say that I remember that C-Pen, or the OG C-Pen. I remember it. I think the highlight was that it worked with Windows XP. And it was all the rage, and I remember it, and it's still in my drawer. It was impressive, but now the lineup of the Canada pens, as we've learned that the C stands for, maybe, hopefully, the C-Pen lineup, that it's come so far from that old the OG one, the original guy there. It's incredible what they can do now. Looking forward to that Pro model that's coming out with those extra features on it as well. So
yeah, I'm really excited, and I in my discussions, we've built a good relationship with Dr. Cunningham, Todd Cunningham, and if you haven't, please look him up. He has written some phenomenal papers, primarily focused on K-12, but he talks about the barriers and challenges that actually educators put up in the classroom to the introduction of assistive technology tools. So he's done some great research. That's with OISE, the University of Toronto here. They're studying in studies in education. It's a great conversation. And with him, he's identified many different pieces of areas that we need to add to the pen. Although it's not there yet, the translation tool, the ability to translate on the fly, that's becoming a very, how do I say it? It's not insidious, but it's becoming everywhere. We're starting to see it a lot more. Once it gets to the point that we can add it to the pen, we hope to add that feature to the pen. Some of the technology at a very germane level is there, but imagine if not only will it read to you, but if you are speaking, if you're coming in from a different country, you'll be able to translate on the fly. So once we're able to add that to the system, you know that we will add that to the pen. So as technology gets better and and improves and grows faster, the pen will get better and grow and become even more essential. And I like what someone said earlier, is the different applications that this pen can add. So adding in white noise while you're working, and now you are, much like the iPhone became the one text, the one piece of where everything came together, be it phone, camera, listening to music. Now the pen can continue to sort of gather in more pieces into that one tool.
perfect, and we're looking forward to that Doug version as well with listening to the I'm quite. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Feel free to reach out to me with your questions. I'm around. You can reach out to me by email. Happy to answer questions. And again, keep in mind that we're knocking off $25 for each pen. And if you look at ordering in quantities above 5 and 10, we can have a discussion about how that can work. So we're happy to work with you at the college level. If you have an idea for a pilot, if you want to try it out, we have done and rolled out pilots across the country as well.
Perfect. That sounds great. Great opportunity there to put the technology in the hands of those that are going to use it. Build the use case so we can convince the powers to be that it's more than just more money to spend. It's actually going to be able to support the students and the people that we work with on a daily basis. So, Yeah, it's been fantastic, Tom, to see the advancements and the different options. I think in higher ed specifically, as well as the K-12, but definitely in the higher ed, there's a lot of opportunity for the scanning pen, where non-traditional opportunities where you might not have thought of it, such as exam and resource management, to be able to loan them out in the libraries. All kinds of things that can happen well beyond the disability departments that most of us here today are representing. Being able to put it out and implement it on kind of a universal design perspective. So just one final chance, if anybody's got their mic unmuted or hands raised for a verbal question. I don't see anything else coming in the chat. And I'm not seeing any unmuted mics or raised hands. So I think what we'll do is wrap ourselves up here for today, Tom. It's been fantastic to be able to have all this information, hands-on demonstration of a pen, get the feel for it, even though it's virtual. It's been a little difficult to maybe get the exact feel for it, but it's still, you did a great demonstration there with the document camera. Appreciate that. And yeah, so the tools, adding this into our toolbox, that's what us as ATs, we do all the time. We want to know what tools are out there. We want to be able to have these application type discussions, Tom, so we can then know to go into that toolbox and pull the scanning pen out, whichever version of it is when it's appropriate. And you've definitely given us that information today, so it's no doubt going to further or help us support those that we assist each day. So it's great that you're able to give us this information. For your sharing today, I appreciate it. We want to definitely see where scanning pens comes in the future. So don't be a stranger. Definitely come and show us what that pro model does, and if there's any other opportunities for new feature updates or that, let me have the information, and I'll share it out to the membership as well, because the more up to date we are on the product, the more opportunities we can have to be able to put it into those places and support the end users. So it's great. Again, appreciate it. Any final comments from you, Tom, before we just end today?
Just thank you, and thank you for your attention, and I really appreciate fabulous questions. That was fun.
Perfect.
You stumped me a couple of times, I'll be honest. I'll get back to you, but hey, what's life without being stumped?
Well, that is so true, and I think we usually can stump each other even as ATs at least once a day. So we'll eagerly await those responses, and hopefully we'll be able to include those as resources for the replay. And the most important question that was asked, above and beyond everything else, all joking aside, is what does the C stand for in CPEN? So, all right.
Take care. Thank you.
Again, lastly, for everyone here today, thanks for joining us. Remember, you can't spell education without AT. Until next time, take care, stay safe.